20 black celebrities who were best friends you didn't know about. They tell you fame comes with an entourage. So why do so many stars still admit they've never felt more alone? In Hollywood, people applaud your wins, then disappear the moment your name stops trending. That's why this countdown is different. These aren't photo op friends. These are black celebrity bonds with public receipts. Mentors who opened doors day ones, who stayed before the money, and partnerships that survived rumors, ego distance, and career storms. Some of these friendships literally changed lives. Stay to the end for the pair that will completely reframe what best friends really means. Subscribe to the Black Excellence List for more verified stories. Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King. Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King are proof that the real miracle in show business isn't fame, it's consistency. Their friendship didn't begin on a red carpet. It started in 1976 at Baltimore's WJZ-TV, when Oprah was a young news anchor and Gayle was a production assistant trying to find her footing. The origin story has become famous for a reason. A snowstorm stranded Gayle, and Oprah invited her to stay the night. That ordinary decision turned into an all-night conversation, and according to both women, it became the foundation of everything that came after. Oprah even gave Gayle a toothbrush and a dress for the next day, the kind of tiny, practical kindness that shows you who someone really is. From there, their lives moved at different speeds. Oprah's career grew into a cultural empire. Gayle built her own journalism path. And yet the friendship became more visible and more tested because people couldn't imagine two women being that close without turning it into something else. Oprah has addressed those long-running rumors directly, saying our culture often doesn't have a label for a bond this deep, unless it's romantic. So here's the question. When the world tries to rename your friendship into a scandal, do you explain yourself or keep living the truth until the noise burns out? What makes Oprah and Gayle best friends you didn't know about isn't secrecy. It's the parts the public rarely sees: the decades of showing up during divorces, career pivots, health scares, and private fear long after cameras moved on. Their longevity also turns into a quiet challenge to celebrity culture. Most relationships get consumed by status. Theirs keeps returning to the same simple rule: be present, be honest, stay. Beyonce and Kelly Rowland. Beyonce and Kelly Rowland are the rare kind of best friends whose bond didn't grow after success. It survived because it started before anyone was watching. Long before stadium tours and headline-making performances, they were kids in Houston chasing a shared dream through rehearsal rooms and talent show circuits. By the early Destiny's Child era, Kelly wasn't just a groupmate. She was essentially family. Tina Knowles has openly called Kelly her bonus daughter, a phrase that only makes sense when you understand how deeply the lives were intertwined. Their story matters because it isn't built on glamorous photo ops. It's built on the unglamorous stuff, stability routines, and showing up when nobody benefits from it. Public accounts repeatedly emphasize that Kelly spent significant time living with the Knowles family while the girls were growing up, an arrangement that turned friendship into something closer to sisterhood, not by branding, but by proximity and trust. Then fame hit, and that's where most friendships crack. Success creates comparison. Who gets the spotlight? Who gets the headlines? Who gets treated like the other one? But Beyonce and Kelly have navigated decades of global attention without turning their relationship into a competition the public can consume. Even when fans try to frame their connection as a rivalry story, the pattern keeps pointing the other way: supportive appearances, affectionate language, and a family-level comfort that doesn't look staged. So here's the question. When the whole world is measuring you against your closest friend, do you protect the friendship or protect your ego? What makes their bond so compelling is that it reads like the opposite of Hollywood loneliness. The industry loves breakups, feuds, and dramatic betrayals. Beyonce and Kelly offer a quieter headline longevity, a friendship that matured through childhood, survived adulthood, and still feels rooted in the simplest truth. Some people aren't just part of your career arc. They're part of your life's foundation. Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff. Will Smith and DJ Jazzy. Jeff didn't meet through a Hollywood mixer or a studio contract. They met the way real alliances often start at a house party in West Philadelphia in 1985 when Jeff Towns was spinning and the night needed an extra spark. Accounts of their origin story describe Smith jumping in as a hype man, chemistry clicking fast enough that random turned into a plan. From there, their partnership became a cultural shortcut to joy. As DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, they helped pull rap into living rooms that still treated hip-hop like a threat. The receipts are public. They won the first Grammy for Best Rap Performance in 1989 for Parents Just Don't Understand, then struck again with Summertime while building a run that went beyond novelty platinum success and millions of albums sold. But the reason this duo belongs on a Best Friends You Didn't Know About list isn't that people don't know the names. It's that many don't realize how rare their relationship is. Unlike so many famous pairs, they didn't fracture into lawsuits and documentaries. In a Rolling Stone interview, Jeff explained their end wasn't driven by ego or infighting. Their careers simply moved in different lanes, acting pulling Will forward. DJ culture, pulling Jeff outward without burning the bridge between them. So here's the question. When success splits your paths, do you treat distance like betrayal? Or like proof you trust each other to grow? The quiet loyalty shows up in the long game reunions at major moments, collaborations, resurfacing years later, and public appearances that feel less like nostalgia and more like two men picking up a conversation they never actually ended. Billboard has even covered them teaming up again for events built around their shared history. And when they pop up side by side, it lands because it's not a reunion tour desperation, it's continuity. In an industry that profits from fallouts, Will and Jeff are the counter-headline, a partnership that aged into brotherhood, not loud, not performative, just durable enough to survive decades of changing fame. Rihanna and Melissa Ford. Rihanna and Melissa Ford are the kind of friendship Hollywood can't manufacture because it started before fame had a price tag. Long before Rihanna became a global brand, Melissa was already there, the friend who didn't need a badge, a title, or a reason to stay close. Their bond is so consistent that it's become part of Rihanna's public universe, in a quiet way, seen in candid travel moments, backstage glimpses, and the unglamorous real-life corners celebrities rarely show. What makes this pair fit the theme isn't a single viral clip, it's the timeline. Multiple profiles describe them as childhood friends from Barbados who stayed connected through Rihanna's move to the US and her rise with Melissa remaining a constant presence while the rest of the orbit changes. Vogue has also directly referred to Melissa as Rihanna's best friend while highlighting their vacations and the way they move like a two-person unit, matching energy contrasting style but always together. And here's the detail that turns best friends into something deeper. Melissa isn't only around. She's often credited as the eye behind the camera, the one capturing Rihanna in moments that don't feel staged. That dynamic matters because it suggests trust at the most intimate level. Who gets to document you when you're not performing? So here's the question. If you became world famous tomorrow, would your closest friend still feel safe enough to tell you the truth? Rihanna's world is massive, but it's also constantly audited by public opinion. People come close for access, clout, or a headline. The shock isn't that she has a best friend, it's that she has one who stayed visible without turning it into a brand partnership. One who can be present in celebration and in quiet maintenance. Even recent mainstream coverage still frames Melissa as best friend, showing how enduring the label has remained over time. In an industry where friendships often dissolve the minute careers shift, Rihanna and Melissa Ford read like the rare exception, a bond that looks less like networking and more like family, steady enough to survive eras' reinventions and the kind of fame that usually burns relationships down. Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan. Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan didn't sell their friendship with constant selfies or loud interviews. It showed up in the quieter, evidenced professional respect that turned into something that looked a lot like brotherhood. They became permanently linked in the public mind through Black Panther, But the deeper bond revealed itself after the camera stopped. Jordan repeatedly spoke about Boseman as someone who raised the standard of what it meant to lead, even while carrying a private battle the world never saw. When Boseman died in 2020 at 43 after colon cancer, Jordan's tribute hit people like a gut punch, not because it was theatrical, but because it sounded like grief from someone who had truly been let into the inner circle. He called Boseman his big brother, wrote that he had been replaying every moment, every conversation, and admitted he wished they'd had more time, language that doesn't come from a co-star's PR template. That message landed as proof that in an industry trained to keep emotions marketable, this friendship was personal first. So here's the question. When you lose someone who quietly shaped how you move through the world, do you honor them with words or by changing how you live? What makes this duo perfect for the best friends you didn't know about theme is the way their connection kept surfacing in unexpected places. Acceptance speeches, interviews, small symbols. In 2026, Jordan again publicly honored Boseman while accepting a major award, treating his name not as nostalgia, but as a compass, a reminder of what leadership should look like when nobody's watching. The pattern tells you the relationship wasn't a moment, it became a reference point. And that's the rarest kind of celebrity friendship. Not we hung out, but you changed me. Boseman's impact on Jordan reads like a private mentorship that didn't need formal labels. Just proximity, respect, and the kind of example that survives death. Their story doesn't rely on rumors or manufactured drama. The proof is in what Jordan keeps choosing to say years later when he has nothing to gain from saying it. Spike Lee and Denzel Washington. Spike Lee and Denzel Washington are the kind of best friends Hollywood can't turn into a gossip headline because their bond is easiest to spot in the work. When Lee trusts you, he doesn't just cast you, he hands you the weight of a whole argument about America. When Denzel trusts you, he doesn't just show up. He builds a character so solid it becomes part of the culture's memory. Over the years, their collaborations have stacked into a timeline that reads like loyalty with receipts. Mo Better Blues, 1990. Malcolm X, 1992. He Got Game, 1998. Inside Man, 2006. And then nearly 2 decades later, a 5th film together, Highest to Lowest, which Reuters reported marked their reunion after about 18 years since their last collaboration. What makes this friendship surprising isn't that people don't know their names. It's that many don't realize how rare it is for 2 black giants to keep choosing each other in an industry that constantly encourages separation, different lanes, different camps, different narratives. At Cannes 2025, Reuters also noted Denzel received a surprise honorary Palme d'Or with Spike right there in the moment. Public proof of a relationship that isn't just transactional, but enduring. When a friendship can go quiet for years and still pick up instantly, is that distance? Or is it trust? Their story is built on grown man friendship rules. Respect without possessiveness. Admiration without competition. Time apart without punishment. The best friend part shows up in the long view, coming back together when it matters, not when it's trendy. Even The Guardian framed Highest to Lowest as their 5th project and highlighted how Lee speaks about their body of work like a shared legacy, not a series of gigs. In a culture that confuses constant proximity with closeness, Spike and Denzel are the counterexample, 2 careers powerful enough to stand alone yet connected by a creative brotherhood that keeps returning when the story demands it. Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish. Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish are the kind of friendship that doesn't start with champagne, it starts with survival. Before the sold-out tours, the movie premieres, and the I knew you back when speeches, there were late-night sets, tiny paychecks, and the kind of exhaustion that makes you wonder if the dream is even real. Haddish has described a period when she was homeless and living out of her car, still trying to perform, still trying to get seen. In multiple interviews reported by people, she credited Kevin Hart with stepping in a way that wasn't performative. He gave her $300 so she could get a room, rest, and regroup, and he pushed her to write down goals instead of letting the moment swallow her. Then the story gets even more specific in later reporting. Haddish said Hart helped connect her to a way into her first apartment, one she's talked about keeping for years, as a reminder of where she started. Proof that help wasn't just a one-night rescue, it was a turning point. If someone helps you when you're broke and invisible, do you ever stop hearing their voice when success finally shows up? That's why this friendship lands harder than a cute backstage photo. It's not built on convenience. It's built on a moment where one person could have looked away and didn't. And because the detail comes from Haddish herself in repeated public accounts, it stays on the right side of no fake news. It's not a rumor. It's testimony she's consistently shared. In an industry where relationships often begin after the benefits are obvious, Kevin and Tiffany represent something rarer. Loyalty that formed before the spotlight arrived, then stayed steady when the spotlight tried to rewrite who deserved credit for the climb. Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre didn't become friends because the industry paired them up. They became a brotherhood because one pivotal moment turned into a lifetime of trust. In 1992, Dre released Deep Cover, a single credited to Dr. Dre and Snoop Doggy Dogg, and it's widely documented as Snoop's first appearance on a record release, the opening door that transformed him from a local voice into a national presence. From there, the relationship kept writing history. Dre's sound and Snoop's delivery became a signature of West Coast rap's golden era, and the partnership echoed through decades of collaborations and shared public milestones. But what makes this pair perfect for a best friends countdown isn't just the discography. It's the way they describe each other when there's nothing left to sell. In a widely shared interview recap, Snoop called Dre a big brother, crediting him with teaching professionalism and helping him navigate the shift from street survival to long-term business thinking. Dre, in turn, described the bond as built on deep trust and a promise not to let Snoop down. That's the kind of language you don't use for a colleague. That's family talk. If loyalty lasts 30 years in a business built on ego, is that friendship or a pact? What's striking is how their connection keeps evolving instead of freezing in nostalgia. Recent coverage traces their 30-year friendship from the early 90s launchpad all the way to modern ventures, including their joint gin and juice business collaboration, proof that the relationship isn't just sentimental. It's functional and still moving forward. And because the receipts are public release dates, interviews, career intersections, the story doesn't need exaggeration. The surprise isn't that two legends work together. The surprise is that after decades of fame, they still speak about each other like the foundation never changed. Dre as the steady compass, Snoop as the voice that trusted him to steer. Queen Latifah and Jada Pinkett Smith. Queen Latifah and Jada Pinkett Smith are the definition of a friendship that started before either one had legend attached to her name. Their origin story has been told in mainstream interviews. Jada has recalled first seeing Latifah perform at a Baltimore club as a teenager, being stunned by her presence and pushing her way into an introduction, an early moment that turned admiration into connection. That's important because it means their bond wasn't built on fame networking. It was built on recognition, one young black woman seeing another and realizing she's the real thing. Years later, they didn't just remain friends, they shared a cultural checkpoint. Their film, Set It Off, released November 1996, became a defining title in black cinema, and recent coverage still highlights its impact and legacy, reminding audiences how powerful that cast was, Latifah and Jada included. Then, decades after that, they reunited in the mainstream conversation around Girls Trip, where interviews again emphasized that their friendship had lasted nearly 30 years at the time, long enough to outlive careers rising and falling, relationships changing, and the industry's constant pressure to turn closeness into rumor. When the world keeps trying to label your Bond rivalry scandal industry friends, do you explain or let longevity do the talking? Their story works because the proof isn't hidden. It's in the public record, their early meeting story repeated across major outlets, their shared projects, Their mutual respect in interviews, and the simple fact that they still show up in the same frame without needing to sell the friendship. And the most compelling part is the quiet consistency, two women who built separate empires, yet still speak with the ease of people who don't have to audition their loyalty. In an industry that rewards drama, Latifah and Jada are the rare headline that stays steady. Friendship that grows up, stays intact, and never needs a scandal to feel real. John Legend and Kanye West. John Legend and Kanye West once looked like the kind of friendship the music business is built to monetize late-night studio sessions, shared creative language, and the sense that one man's vision could unlock another man's destiny. For years, their connection was publicly understood as both collaboration and camaraderie. Legend has spoken about how close they used to be, then how the relationship slowly changed as Kanye's public life grew louder than the private person Legend remembered. The turning point, by Legend's own account, wasn't a single insult. It was a widening gap in values. In August 2022, Legend said the strain became too much for us to sustain our friendship, pointing specifically to West's support for Donald Trump and the fallout surrounding West's 2020 presidential run. He later clarified that headlines can flatten complex timelines, but he didn't walk back the central truth. The closeness wasn't what it used to be, and politics made the distance undeniable. What makes this pair fascinating for a best friends you didn't know about list is the emotional realism. Sometimes friendship doesn't end with a blow-up. It ends with a quiet recognition that the bond is no longer safe for your conscience. Legend has described how they simply weren't close after those public disagreements, a line that lands like a cold wind because it sounds like grief, not gossip. If someone who helped shape your career becomes a person you can't morally stand beside anymore, do you honor the history or protect your integrity? Their story is also a reminder that Hollywood friendship isn't always about proximity. It's about alignment. You can share a past, share a studio, share wins, and still reach a point where staying friends would require pretending. Legend didn't frame it as hatred. He framed it as a friendship overtaken by a public trajectory he couldn't follow. That's a different kind of heartbreak. Not betrayal with a villain, but distance with a reason. Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock don't present their friendship like a Hallmark moment. They present it like a quiet pact between two men who understand what it costs to be a public symbol. Their bond became impossible to ignore in 2022 when Rock was slapped on the Oscars stage and Chappelle was attacked on stage days later. Instead of turning those events into isolation, they did something comedians recognize as real support. They shared space, shared the stage, and let humor process the shock without turning it into exploitation. IndieWire reported that Chappelle and Rock joked about the slap and the attack in the same set, threading pain into laughter the way only someone inside the craft can. Then the receipts got even clearer. In June 2022, Rolling Stone reported they would co-headline a show at London's O2 Arena on September 3rd, with ticket sale details published like any major event. Proof this wasn't a one-off photo op, but a deliberate act of solidarity. Variety and The Hollywood Reporter echoed the same booking, framing it as a joint bill just weeks after both had been attacked on stage in separate incidents. That's what makes their friendship surprising. It's not sentimental branding. It's logistical loyalty, showing up, scheduling time, standing beside your friend when the whole world is turning their worst moment into content. When the internet treats your humiliation like entertainment, who's brave enough to stand next to you without making it about themselves? Chappelle and Rock's friendship reads like a masterclass in quiet support. No over-explaining, no performative speeches, just presence, timing, and the shared understanding that in comedy, you don't survive alone. And that kind of brotherhood is rarer than any viral clip. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall. World knows them as the faces of Coming to America. World knows them as the faces of Coming to America, but what's easy to miss is the real pattern. Eddie didn't just share a screen with Arsenio. He repeatedly pulled him into rooms where access was currency. When the sequel coming to America arrived decades later, the reunion didn't feel like a corporate reboot. It felt like two men continuing a conversation that never truly ended. In a Kimmel segment centered on their bond, they speak directly about friendship, time passing, and why the connection still holds an on-camera confirmation that their relationship isn't a myth built by fans, it's something they recognize as real. Their story works because it includes the part Hollywood rarely rewards loyalty when the spotlight shifts. The early years were lopsided. Eddie's rise exploded while Arsenio was still grinding. But rather than letting success separate them, Eddie kept Arsenio close enough to benefit from opportunity, not pity. Then the dynamic flipped when the Arsenio Hall show became a major platform and Arsenio's fame stood on its own. That's usually where friendships break when equality arrives and egos panic. Instead, they endured the quieter chapter, different schedules, different career temperatures, fewer shared appearances, but no public feud to monetize. When your friend's success finally matches yours, do you celebrate it or secretly resent losing the top spot? What makes Eddie and Arsenio best friends you didn't know about isn't secrecy. It's the absence of drama. Their bond survives because it functions like family. You can go months without a headline, then show up together, and it still feels natural. In an industry addicted to fallouts, their friendship becomes the twist. It proves that the most surprising relationships aren't always hidden. Sometimes they're simply steady, and steadiness doesn't trend. Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry. Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry are one of those friendships that feels impossible only if you forget how rarely two people reach that kind of power and still recognize themselves in each other. Oprah has said directly that it didn't surprise her they became close because their paths share a familiar rhythm. Pain turned into purpose. Then purpose turned into platforms big enough to change other people's lives. What makes their bond stand out is that it's not built on occasional party photos. It's built on mutual respect between two architects of black media, two people who understand what it costs to carry an empire that's also an identity. Oprah even posted publicly that she and Perry have been friends for almost 20 years. A simple sentence that hits hard when you realize how many celebrity friendships don't last 2 seasons. Their connection also has a practical footprint in culture. Tyler Perry didn't just admire Oprah. His work became part of her network's ecosystem, with multiple Perry projects airing on OWN, making their relationship feel less like networking and more like aligned mission. And even after nearly 2 decades of friendship, the story still evolves. Variety reported that Perry and Oprah, friends for close to 20 years, reached a first when he directed her in Netflix's The 688. That detail matters because it shows a friendship that keeps finding new ways to collaborate without treating each other like trophies. If two people are powerful enough to do everything alone, what does it say when they still choose friendship and keep choosing it for decades? The best part is that their bond doesn't rely on secret claims. It lives in public evidence. Oprah describing their closeness. Oprah stating the near 20-year timeline and coverage of major creative moments where they trust each other on projects that carry real reputational weight. In a world where friendships often dissolve, the second one person's success becomes inconvenient. Oprah and Tyler Perry read like something rarer. Two giants who don't need each other for access yet still show up because they actually value each other. Regina Hall and Issa Rae. Regina Hall and Issa Rae are the kind of friendship that sneaks up on people because it doesn't feel manufactured. It feels like two sharp minds discovering they speak the same emotional language. Their bond came into clearer public view around Little 2019, where they worked together and then kept showing up in interviews with the kind of ease you can't fake, teasing timing, the relaxed confidence of two women who trust each other's humor and boundaries. People even describe them as close, noting Hall's friendship with Rae and spotlighting their dynamic beyond a single project. What makes their friendship especially satisfying is the texture. It's playful, but it's also protective. On press tours and talk segments, their banter often reads like a private joke made public. Roasting that never crosses into disrespect, the kind of energy that signals, I know you well enough to joke, and you know I'm safe. The Root leaned into that exact point, describing them as colleagues and BFFs, and pointing to how their playful trolling and back and forth became a visible marker of closeness. And when you trace it back to the work itself, their sister circle theme isn't just a vibe. It's something they've talked about in interviews around the film's message and the power of Black women supporting Black women in the industry. When the world keeps trying to turn successful Black women into competitors, isn't choosing friendship the most rebellious move of all? The reason Regina and Issa belong on this list is that their relationship feels like a modern blueprint. Friendship built through collaboration, strengthened through humor and sustained by respect that doesn't need constant public proof. It's not we're besties because the internet said so. It's we worked, we clicked, we stayed connected, and you can literally see it in the way they talk to each other when no one's forcing a scripted answer. Lil Wayne and 2 Chainz. Lil Wayne and 2 Chainz are one of hip-hop's most unlikely best friends because their bond doesn't sound like a PR fairy tale. It sounds like 2 grown men who genuinely enjoy each other and kept choosing loyalty long after they didn't need it. GQ's profile around their collaborative era describes their relationship as a long-running friendship that began in Atlanta and matured into something closer to chosen family, the kind of brotherhood that's rare in a genre often framed through rivalry. Their chemistry isn't just nostalgia either. It has receipts in work Collogrove 2016 and the follow-up. Welcome to Collogrove projects that lean into the idea that friendship itself can be the headline, not the drama. And then there's the detail that makes audiences sit up. Wayne wasn't just around, he was best man at 2 Chainz' wedding, a fact referenced in both GQ coverage and Billboard's reporting. It's a small sentence with huge meaning in hip-hop because best man duty isn't a feature verse, it's real-life accountability. GQ even points to the image of Wayne helping on the wedding day as proof that their relationship is deeper than music business convenience. So here's the question when the industry stops calling who's still standing next to you when there's nothing to gain. That's why this pair belongs in a best friends you didn't know about. Countdown. People may know they collaborate, but they don't always realize how personal the tie is. Their story plays against the usual narrative that rap friendships are temporary alliances. Instead, Wayne and Chainz show a different model mentorship, without ownership. Success, without jealousy, and a bond strong enough to survive. Label chaos, changing eras, and the constant temptation to move like a solo empire. When they trade lines, it doesn't feel like networking. It feels like 2 friends laughing in the booth telling the truth in public the way they've already been telling it in private. Taraji P. Henson and Mary J. Blige. Taraji P. Henson and Mary J. Blige have the kind of friendship that reads like a lifeline disguised as laughter. It's not the we're always together type, it's the I see you clearly type. Billboard has reported that their bond traces back to working together on Tyler Perry's 2009 film I Can Do Bad All By Myself, and that they've called each other best friends since. That origin matters because it anchors the story in something verifiable: a shared project, a shared grind, a relationship built in the work, not built for headlines. What makes their friendship compelling is how it keeps showing up in public moments that feel too specific to be fake. In 2017, Taraji spoke at Billboard's Women in Music and highlighted Mary's impact, framing it as encouragement from a woman who understands what it costs to remain bold in public. And more recently, People covered Mary writing a tribute to Taraji for Time's 2024 list, calling her a beautiful friend and praising her courage and authenticity. That's not casual celebrity politeness. It's the language of someone who has watched your private battles up close and still respects the way you carry them. So here's the question: when you're exhausted, underestimated, and barely holding it together, who's the friend that reminds you you're still powerful? Their friendship works because it blends softness with steel. Taraji is known for speaking plainly about pressure and pay inequity. Mary is known for surviving and transforming pain into music. Put them together, and the connection makes sense. They don't need to pretend life is easy, and they don't need to compete for the same spotlight. Instead, their bond feels like mutual recognition, two women who've been through enough to understand that loyalty isn't a vibe, it's an action. The proof isn't one viral clip. It's a trail of consistent public affirmations across years tied to real events, real appearances, and real words they've chosen to say when nobody forced them to. Lil Wayne and Drake. Lil Wayne and Drake is one of those friendships that started like a business decision and quietly grew into a bond that reshaped an entire era of rap. The how it began has been documented in multiple profiles. Wayne heard the buzz. The introduction happened through Drake's circle, and by 2009, Drake was effectively folded into the Young Money universe, with major outlets describing him as Wayne's protege and detailing the early label machinery behind that rise. But what makes their story fit this best friends you didn't know about theme isn't the contract. It's the loyalty that kept showing up after fame stopped being new. In February 2010, as Wayne faced prison time, Rolling Stone captured Drake speaking about him with a kind of reverence that doesn't sound like industry politeness. Drake said Wayne would be missed everything about Wayne and framed him as a once-in-a-generation presence. That quote matters because it shows the emotional hierarchy. Drake didn't talk like an employee. He talked like a younger brother watching the person who changed his life walk into a storm. And years later, Interview magazine described Wayne famously mentoring Drake after a tape reached his inner circle, reinforcing that the relationship was widely understood as mentorship but lived like family. So here's the question. When the mentor who opened every door for you starts losing battles behind the scenes, do you repay the debt publicly or protect him privately? The real surprise is that their relationship didn't collapse under the weight of success. In hip-hop, the student becoming bigger can poison everything. Yet their public narrative keeps returning to the same pattern, Drake acknowledging Wayne's influence, Wayne framing Drake as his guy, and their link staying intact even as the industry tried to turn it into a scoreboard. That endurance is what makes it friendship, not just history. Because at a certain level, neither man needs the other for relevance. So when they continue to speak in mentor and brother language, it reads like choice, not necessity. In a list full of photo-friendly friendships, Wayne and Drake stand out because the bond is built on something less visible: early belief, late-stage loyalty, and the kind of long memory that doesn't expire when the spotlight changes direction. Angela Bassett and Courtney B. Vance. Angela Bassett and Courtney B. Vance are what happens when best friends becomes a blueprint for a lifelong bond because their relationship began as friendship long before it became romance. According to People's Timeline, they first met in the 1980s as students at the Yale School of Drama. They weren't a couple then. They were two ambitious black artists learning how to survive in a field that often treats them like exceptions instead of standards. Years passed, careers grew, timing shifted. Then they reconnected in 1994 in Los Angeles, where friendship finally turned into something deeper. The milestones are documented and unusually specific. They married in 1997, and after years of fertility struggles, they welcomed fraternal twins via surrogate in 2006. That timeline matters because it shows this wasn't a Hollywood whirlwind. It was patience risk, and the kind of commitment that doesn't photograph well until you realize it's the only thing that lasts. People later interviewed them about how they got out of the friend zone and stayed married for 26 years, emphasizing that their foundation was built on respect, communication, and accountability, the grown-up mechanics behind real companionship. When love gets hard, and it always does, do you want chemistry or a friend who knows how to stay? Their story fits this friendship theme because Bassett and Vance don't describe their marriage like a fairy tale. They describe it like a craft. It's two people protecting each other's dreams while refusing to let the relationship become a trophy. Even the way their history is told publicly centers friendship first. Yale classmates, years of knowing each other, then a late-blooming connection that turned into a durable partnership. In an industry that sells romance as spectacle, their surprising secret is simpler and rarer. They actually like each other enough to remain friends through every season. Lil Wayne and Nicki Minaj. Lil Wayne and Nicki Minaj is a friendship that reads like a rescue mission and then a revolution. Before the world called Nicki a superstar, she was a mixtape artist fighting for space in a genre that rarely made room for women at the top. The official turning point is documented. XXL reported in August 2009 that Nicki signed to Young Money/Universal, framing it as a serious bidding war moment and making the mentor relationship unmistakable. Wayne wasn't just co-signing, he was building a roster. That matters because it anchors the story in public record. The friendship didn't begin as a trendy alliance. It began as a high-stakes bet. But the deeper best friends layer shows up in how Nicki talks when no one is forcing her to. In Interview magazine, she described Wayne's mentorship in personal terms, saying she couldn't imagine her career or creative spirit without him, and crediting him for giving her support no one relevant in hip-hop gave her before. That's not just gratitude, it's dependency. In the healthiest sense, an artist admitting her confidence was strengthened by one person's belief. So here's the question: when someone makes you feel seen in a room designed to overlook you, do you stay loyal to the person or to the crown you're chasing? Nicki and Wayne's bond is compelling because it survived the phase that destroys most mentor-protege relationships, when the protege becomes powerful enough to stand alone. Instead of rewriting the story to center herself, Nicki keeps returning to Wayne as origin, as catalyst, as creative North Star. And Wayne's role isn't framed as ownership, it's framed as shelter, a place where her weirdness, aggression, humor, and ambition weren't treated like a problem to shrink, but like a weapon to sharpen. Interview's coverage explicitly positions Wayne as someone who famously discovered and mentored her, again public proof that the relationship wasn't invented after success. In a genre that thrives on rivalry narratives, especially between women, this friendship is a counterstory. It's a long-running alliance where the mentor didn't just open a door and the student didn't just walk through it. They built a lane, then kept each other company inside it, even when fame made the lane crowded and loud. Chris Brown and Trey Songz. Chris Brown and Trey Songz are the kind of duo that makes people forget how rare genuine friendship is in music, because their chemistry looks effortless, like two voices that naturally know where the other is going. The public receipts aren't rumors. They're time-stamped collaborations and joint stages that kept resurfacing across the 2010s. One of the clearest markers is their official collaboration, Songs on 12 Play, released on Chris Brown's X era in 2014, a track that fans still treat like an R&B handshake between two artists who understood each other's lane. Then, the friendship stepped out of the playlist and into real logistics, the Between the Sheets tour, a major run headlined by Chris Brown and Trey Songz, with Tyga also on the bill. They spoke about the tour together in multiple public interviews, including sit-downs circulated online and coverage by major outlets, proof that this wasn't a one-off feature-verse relationship but a shared lane built for arenas. What makes their bond compelling for a best friends countdown is the contrast in temperament. Chris is known for performance intensity, movement, stamina, spectacle. Trey leans into smooth control vocals that feel like slow motion. Put them together, and the partnership works like balance. One brings heat, the other brings velvet. And the overlap feels less like competition and more like a tag team. So here's the question. When two stars share the same spotlight, do they push each other to shine, or secretly hope the other one dims? Trey has also spoken on record about touring with Chris in a matter-of-fact way, presenting it as something fans could expect, not as a publicity stunt, another small sign that the connection wasn't fragile. And that's the real you didn't know angle, not that the world never saw them together, but that many people underestimate what it takes to keep an alliance steady in an industry built on ego scheduling, conflicts, and shifting loyalties. In a space where friendships often expire after a single album cycle, Chris Brown and Trey songs kept returning to the same pattern: collaborate, share stages, speak respectfully in public, then let the work do the talking. That kind of consistency, quiet, repeatable, and visible over time, is the part that reads like real friendship instead of convenient branding. Fame can give you millions of fans, but it can't guarantee one real friend who shows up when the lights go out. These bonds, mentors, day one sisters, creative brothers, even friendships that survive distance prove something deeper than headlines. Loyalty is built in private, not on camera. Now here's the debate. Are celebrity friendships stronger because pressure forges them, or more fragile because success turns everything into leverage? Drop your honest take in the comments. And if you want more verified stories of Black legacy relationships and hidden history, subscribe and follow the Black Excellence List.